Symphony.
That's it.
At the end of the day, my mama likes you.
Tomorrow, please get some cat.
And we running late because I like misbehaving with you.
What? Great.
Everything's great, nothing is falling through like, oh my God. There ain't no way it could be any better. But I'm scared. I don't know if it's love or the mess you clean up in my heart. But it's there. And we'll never know, 'cause we leave it alone in the dark. But you and I are dancing off the earth tonight. I spin you in the moonlight. My fingers through your hair, feelings everywhere. Do you hear the sound? This is our symphony. We're dancing off the earth tonight. And we dance, and we dance.
Because it's dark.
Get a little snap going if you want.
Night.
Mi amor, you got me to like me. I'm finally writing, you're getting my songs out of me. Ain't no telling how our movie ends, is love gonna die? We got a good shot at forever. But I'm scared. I don't know if it's us or the beat that you drum in my heart. But it's there. And we'll never know, 'cause we leave it alone in the dark. But you and I are dancing off the earth tonight. I spin you in the moonlight. My fingers through your hair, feelings everywhere. Do you hear the sound? This is our symphony. We're dancing off the earth tonight. And we dance, and we dance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where are those snaps? Come on now. Where'd they go? We're dancing off the earth tonight. I spin you in the moonlight. My fingers through your hair, feelings everywhere. Do you hear the sound? This is our symphony. We're dancing off the earth tonight. And we dance, and we dance. Thank you. Cool.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Chutzpah Advantage book launch. How you guys doing? Cool, you're all muted. It's so good. So good to hear that applause. I feel like you guys are going wild, but it's nice to see all your beautiful names. It's good. It's just a Zoom. Come on. But you know what? It's an amazing thing. Mason Harris, he is launching his book. It just came out today, and it's an incredible accomplishment. And Mason's going to be out in just a little bit. But my name is Gary Vider, as you could see by the name in the Zoom here, and I am a stand-up comedian, also Mason's cousin. It was obviously I didn't have much going on. It's this is what I'm doing now. I'm doing book launches, which is great because it's an incredible book. I can't write a book, could barely read one, and just happy to be a part of this. So that's super cool. And if you guys want, you could be a little bit unmuted if you're not making too much noise. I think that's possible. I don't know, but oh, that's cool. Yeah, they say it's okay. And yeah, feel free to be unmuted. So I could hear any feedback, but I'll warm you guys up. As I mentioned, I'm a stand-up comedian, so I'll tell you guys a couple of jokes, get you guys riled up, maybe drunk, whatever you guys want to do. But keep your clothes on, do whatever you got to do. But anyway, it's nice to be here. As I mentioned, I do stand-up comedy, but there isn't really much stand-up comedy that has been going on over the last year because of the pandemic. So most of my shows they've been outside restaurants, or they've been here like on Zoom. All been terrible shows. I did one show even at a nursing home. That actually went well. I killed everybody there, so it was good. Cool. No, just kidding. It's a joke. Remember, a comedian, but big year. What a year, 2020. My wife and I, we had a baby, so that's cool. Yeah. So and we're actually in the house right now. So if you hear crying in the background, don't worry. That's just my wife. Cool. Do you guys get it? All right. There we go. That's killing. I feel I'm killing now. But yeah, it's good. My wife, she wears the pants in the family, or in this case, she's got the chutzpah. But she's the tough one. I'm not tough. I'm Jewish, so Jewish people we're we say we're tough, but we're really not that tough. And I'll give you a reason why we're not that tough. There are no Jewish gangs. You never see a Jewish gang. You ever realize that? I don't even know how that would work. We go up to somebody, we'd be like, "Hey, give me all your money." They'd be like, "I don't have any for you." And we'd be like, "Good, because I wanted to talk to you about savings." So there we go. All right, we're doing it. But you guys are awesome. And then are you guys excited to get this book launch on the way? All right, I'll take that as a yes. And I am gonna bring out the man of the hour. By the way, this is just an hour long book launch, and it's gonna involve drawing, so you could win the book. You could get a free book. You could check it out. It's an amazing book. It's an amazing thing. By the way, if you have any outside noise, and that's you, just mute yourself, because we don't need any of that. But I'm gonna bring out the man of the hour. Guys, give it
Got
up
it.
for Mason Harris.
Got it. Come.
Hey, Gary, thank you very, very much. I appreciate your taking the time out from your busy schedule to
Yeah.
to help MC this thing. Also want to credit Byrne, who is an LA-based singer and songwriter, for that first video. We'll have 2 more of them. He would be on tonight, but he's actually on a plane headed back to LA. Anyway, thank you all. This has been an interesting day. Woke up this morning and we had no broadband, no Wi-Fi, and my hair turned gray thinking about how we were going to do this whole thing. Sorry, I'm not as good as Gary. I admit it right off the bat, but I'm trying. I'm trying here. Work with me. The jokes in the book are better. Wait, the book isn't about joking. Anyway.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about. They don't know about the book. I mean, I know the book. I read the cover. It's incredible. It's a good book. But tell us how you got started with what came up with the idea. How'd you come up with the idea? When did it all start? The whole process. Because first, I don't know if I haven't written a book, but I'm sure a lot of people on here haven't written a book. So how'd it all start?
Well, I'm drawing a complete blank on these answers, but I can tell you this. Chutzpah is one of those concepts that people hear it and they go, well, it's bad. And other people say it's good, or it's positive, it's constructive. No, it's negative. It isn't. We're influenced by our bias towards what chutzpah is. So Gary, if I was to ask you, how would you define chutzpah? What would you say?
First thing that comes to mind is you have balls, cojones. So it's you could go and, get things done. So I feel that's all I learned in Spanish class, by the way. But anyway, that's all, as far as getting things done and, making things happen, I feel you need chutzpah. And that's kind of what it means to me. So, whatever it may be, if it means, getting a meal that's if you only have $10 and you gotta get a meal that costs $20, how can you get around it? Figuring out ways, kind of using your mind.
Okay, well, your gentle description of chutzpah, the 13 version of it, I actually asked that question I was doing a speech in Washington, D.C. and asked the question, and the audience, I was hearing daring, bravado, intestinal fortitude. And one woman in the front, CEO of a good-sized company in D.C., basically said, oh, it's balls. And she brought the house down with that. It's the recognition that sometimes you've got to go beyond yourself to accomplish something, to make something happen. The earliest I can think of, and I'm going to credit somebody who's in the book, my cousin Nick Gordon, one of the earliest jokes that he told me was about a grandmother, Mrs. Shapinsky, who was walking on the beach with her grandson. And it was a nice day, but suddenly gray clouds streamed over very quickly. The waves got rough, and a wave reached out and grabbed the grandson, pulled him into the water. And Mrs. Shapinsky was beyond herself. She looked up at the heavens. She said, dear God, please, it's my grandson. He's innocent. He's harmed nobody. Please give him back to me, and I will devote the rest of my days to you. Well, the sun broke through the clouds, and off in the distance, there was a golden dolphin. And on the back was Mrs. Shapinsky's grandson being brought slowly to the shore. He reaches the shore, he runs up, he hugs his grandmother. She checks him up and down, his pants, his shirt. She brushes the sand out of his hair. She looks up, she goes, he had a hat. And I'm not getting the reaction I want, but in essence,
That's great.
that was chutzpah. The idea that you're accomplishing all the things, and this, by the way, is the negative side of chutzpah. But it made me think that for me, the joke worked because it's true. It's real. We pursue things. Sometimes we get them. We want more. Or for too many of us, we don't even pursue the things that we want. So who has chutzpah? Virtually everybody. I identify in the book 8 characteristics, 8 behaviors of chutzpah. You don't necessarily exhibit all 8 every day, but a number of them you do get involved with. If we think of the word chutzpah, the 8 letters in there, and think of it as an acronym, each of the letters stand for a different characteristic. So for example, Gary, you're a stand-up comedian. What made you get up on stage?
I mean, I always wanted to do it. So I felt like the need to, to perform outweighed kind of like the negative, aspect of it of not ever being able to do it actually would have been way worse to me than, going up and failing in front of people.
Okay. And did you think about, I'm going to go up now, I'm going to put it off till next week or another time, or my material isn't ready. I don't want to be in front of a live audience. Was that part of what went on in your mind?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I for sure put it off for a little bit, and I didn't know if, I wanted to do it, but I was kind of procrastinating a lot in terms of actually like going through with it.
Do you remember the first night you went on stage? What made you do it?
I mean, it came down to just kind of being like, I needed to see if I could actually do it, to go through with it. And once I did that, I realized that, it's something that I definitely, I enjoyed, and I wanted to keep on going. Okay.
So I said that chutzpah is an acronym. So if we take the C in chutzpah, what you did when you went on stage that first night is the behavior that I call carpe diem. Seize the moment, seize the opportunity. Too often we think of things that we want to do. In your case, I want to go up on stage. You probably know, I probably have been approached by hundreds of people who've said, I've always wanted to go on stage. I just don't have it. I haven't done it. You did it. The opportunity was there, and you decided, I'm not going to worry about whether or not people like me yet. That's going to come down the road, but I'm going to do it. So every day we have opportunities to seize the moment, to seize the day. So that's the C in carpe diem. That's the C in chutzpah, and it stands for carpe diem. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that we do the same thing without success, or that we give up when we have objections.
Now we're muted.
So now there can't, every day.
He can't hear us.
Desire.
Well, you can say what you think.
We try things, where we take some risks. That's the first step. It's interesting. When I got started with the book, I was interviewing a number of people, and some of the key questions I asked included, how do you define chutzpah? And where would you rate yourself on a scale of chutzpah from 1 to 100? And it was interesting, the answers I received. I heard if people had a negative perception, they were in the 40s or 50s, maybe 60s. If they had a positive perception, it could be 100. I had one person who rated himself 1,000 on the scale of 100. And it's somebody I know, he's a very successful businessman, and absolutely the chutzpah is there. So if, for all those who are paying attention today, if you think about one or two words that you would use to describe chutzpah, and you think about where you would put yourself on this scale, we'll get back to that later, but it's a start in where we're headed with today. Okay, so some of the other things I asked is, who is an example of chutzpah to you? And is it a person? Is it positive? Is it a business? And the answers there range as well. Gary, in your case, is anybody you can think of that has chutzpah?
In my overall life, yeah, I mean, my father,
Okay.
you know, I definitely think that. My wife, I mean, she gave birth to our son, so I give her that, although she wouldn't, as far as the balls aspect of it, thank God she doesn't have those, but you know what I mean. And yeah, she was, it was all, I would say her, she's probably the toughest one. She's probably gonna, break down this door in just a minute.
It is interesting because I say that chutzpah is for all of us. We all exhibit it. And what you're providing is examples of things that we all do or can do. A lot of people that I spoke with said, when I asked them, who has chutzpah in your mind? I heard a lot. My mother, my father, my partner, my spouse, and these are the reasons. I also heard about the people who we think of, the Steve Jobs, the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos of the world as well.
Right.
So without a doubt, people recognize that there is another type of chutzpah that elevates some people to levels of success or recognition that we don't all have. But all of us have the capabilities, all of us exhibit some of these behaviors at times. How are we doing time-wise here? Do we have?
I think we're almost at the breaking point for the drawing.
Okay. So in the book, let me tell you about some of, when I think about the all of us, there's a story about a taxi driver who normally people wouldn't think of as having chutzpah. This taxi driver, however, happens to be in Madrid, Spain, and it's the beginning of the pandemic. And if you remember, Spain was one of the hardest hit countries early on. Despite being urged by his family to stop driving, he made it his mission to drive people primarily to the hospital. People who were afraid, felt that they had some of the symptoms and needed to get into a hospital for medical care. So that's an example of chutzpah that most people wouldn't think of. And interviewing another gentleman, a very successful author and business person by the name of Josh Linkner, who also has provided an endorsement for the book, he told me the story of a guy by the name of Cass Martin, who is in New York. And it's interesting because this gentleman actually, at the time of the writing, was running a successful physical fitness business, a gym in essence, classes for people. And he used the skills that he acquired on the streets in New York to create this thriving enterprise. However, before that, he had created a different thriving enterprise, one that generated $20 million a year selling illegal drugs to anybody who wanted it. He had a great many people working under him. The same skill sets that enabled him to run a drug ring and spend time in prison, by the way, also enabled him to then open up and create a service for people who needed it, who wanted it. So that gets to your point about all of us have it.
Got it. I want to just remind people, so we have the chat box here on Zoom. If you can throw your name in there, we're going to be selecting randomly, out of that, like at least 3 people who are going to win a free book. So throw your name in it throughout the chat so we could start that book drawing later on. But yeah, you guys get a chance for a free book, so throw your name in that.
Okay. Meanwhile, before we do the first drawing, if it's okay, there are a handful of people I want to acknowledge. I'm not going to be doing any book readings. Rather, I'd like to read some of the endorsements I've been very fortunate to receive for the book from people who've gone out of their way to help give me advice or read the book despite their busy schedules. So the first, and I don't know if he's on, but Byrne, who's a very successful businessman, has coaches around the world, and his book has sold, I can't even think, I think 500,000 copies. And what he wrote was, does your organization have a culture that encourages seizing the day, appropriate risk-taking, persistence, and an expectation for bold, audacious behavior? Well, it will after you read the Chutzpah Advantage. This is an interesting and enjoyable book, and Mason is the chutzpah guy. Thank you, Vern. Somebody else who very significantly influenced where I went with this, an author and a speaker, Sam Horn. I first had the privilege of meeting her after I spoke at a conference on advertising. And she has written a book in the last year called Someday is Not a Day in the Week, basically urging us to move beyond what we say we're going to do down the road when we find the time, and find the time now. Her work and her book influenced this. What did she write? What is something you care about? Whether it's a cause, career, move, or creative project, its success depends on whether you have chutzpah on its behalf. As author Mason Harris clarifies, chutzpah is not being arrogant, it's simply taking action on something important to you. It's understanding that good things do not come to those who wait, good things come to those who initiate. That's what this book teaches you to do. Read it and read. Thank you, Sam. And then the last endorsement I'll read at the moment. This is by Dave Kirpin, one of the most likable people I know, and he has basically captured the brand likable. And Dave is a New York Times bestselling author. He wrote, this is way more than a business book. The stories and lessons shared in the Chutzpah Advantage are guaranteed to help you turn your ideas, even your craziest ones, into reality. 2 huge, likable thumbs up. Thank you, Dave. I think we're ready for the first drawing.
Yeah, we could do the first drawing for sure. They're gonna, we're waiting, anticipation. It's exciting. And, oh, we got a wheel. Look at this.
I feel like I'm in Vegas.
I know, this is nice. The winner. Oh, it's close. Elliot Abrams. Look at that.
You know, this is the thing, because I know he was going to buy a copy. And Elliot, you're going to get a free copy. We'll be back in touch after
still
this.
send money though. He should still send money. I'll give him my address. Yeah.
Harriet, baby. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Eric Harris. I was so close. Yeah. Eric will work with you somehow or other.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Exciting, Elliot. Have you ever won anything before?
No, I was even second at my own birth.
Yeah.
He is one of twins, so that is true. Okay. Let's see, Gary. Let's move on with a bit more of the questions. You had asked me the idea where it came up. This book is partially a result of my chutzpah. And by this, I mean, I'd written a book about 15 years ago. I have reached the point in my life where sometimes people don't value the ideas as much because possibly I'm older than what they're looking for. That's as nice a way as I can say it. And although I was working with some organizations, I found it was difficult to get the types of opportunities that I wanted. So I decided I was going to go back into public speaking. And it was a good decision. I made that decision in January 2020, which was not good timing, because by February and March, the pandemic had eliminated so much in so many of our lives. It struck people we know. It's caused financial loss, illness, even death. I was there thinking, trying not to feel sorry for myself because I had no opportunities at the time, and thinking, well, what should I be doing? And that's when I ran across Sam Horn's book and course again, and that's what got this book going. So for me, this endeavor is a result of my chutzpah, to not just continue watching Tiger King over and over, or go through everything on Netflix that I possibly could, but to make a difference, share something I think would be valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had an idea to make this happen, and I mean, it's an incredible accomplishment. I mean, it really is. It just, I mean, to write a book, to have an idea, and to follow it all the way through. So, bravo to you. I mean, it's incredible. So
Thank you.
this is cool.
I was joking in the early days that I can't wait for the Broadway musical. Today, I actually
Yeah.
from a producer who, who's Tony nominated, who said that she wants to have a discussion with me about the book. So
That's amazing. Yeah.
So
It all leads to the next thing, and this is cool. I mean, I could see it too. It's, I mean, it's different, and it definitely registers with a lot of people. So that's it. Here's the thing. And I learned this from stand up too, is that not everybody's gonna like your stuff. Probably, I'd say 90% of the people didn't like my opening 3 jokes. But that said, it doesn't matter, because it's all about having a core group of people that do like it, and that's what builds up your base. And I could definitely see how this book is definitely going to be on par with people just being basically having a draw to it.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's take another look at that chutzpah model. I mentioned that there are 8 behaviors, and the first one, the C, was for carpe diem. I don't know if anybody has a particular letter they want me to approach, but why don't I skip ahead to the T? If we think about people who are willing to risk failure, who don't mind making errors and recovering from them, who accept that life has its wins and its losses, these people to me are trailblazers. That's what the T stands for in chutzpah. The idea that we are willing to go out and put it on the line for something we believe in, something we want to try. And in most cases, failure is not a terrible thing at all. Most cases, we can quickly backtrack and make another decision, move on. So Gary, if you hadn't succeeded at comedy, what would you be doing?
I mean, I didn't really want to think about that. I just knew that I never wanted to wear, and no offense to anybody who wears a suit for most of their job. But yeah, I just knew I didn't want to wear a suit every day. And no offense to anybody who wears suits. It's just, I knew that I couldn't do that. So I didn't really, I honestly, I didn't really have any other backup. I just couldn't imagine myself being happy doing something else. Even though I knew that it was, definitely something difficult to succeed in. I just couldn't imagine it. So I try not to even like think about, what would my backup be, because I feel like that would be the leading to like me failing.
Right. Well, that's interesting, because in the book I discuss somebody, this name might sound familiar to a bunch of you. It's Chris Gardner. So if it does sound familiar, kudos. He was the subject of a movie. Will Smith played him, and a lot of you probably know Will Smith. The movie was called The Pursuit of Happiness. You're shaking your head, Gary, so maybe you remember this guy.
Oh yeah, great movie.
Interesting story. It was a very good movie. Because it was Hollywood, it wasn't completely accurate. But in essence, he said something you said, that he didn't have a plan B because he could not fail with his plan A. He was taking care of an infant son. And if he didn't get the job he needed, he would be, and his son would be in serious trouble. So there was no plan B. I recommend, certainly you'll find it in the chapter, but find that movie. It is worth seeing. Okay, so also in regard to trailblazing, there's trailblazing that's truly unique. So for example, we think of the company Uber, because the book is for people who want to do better at work, strive for more authority, higher pay. It's good for people who are opening small businesses, taking that risk, for entrepreneurs, and also people who want to create a culture of chutzpah in their organization. But trailblazing, we can think of the founders of Uber, for example. What they did was truly unique, because there was adequate supply of taxis, limousine services, public transportation, but they thought about a completely different opportunity. one that doesn't just provide people a ride, but says you don't have to worry if you're going out with friends. You don't have to call ahead to get a cab or wait on a street and try and flag it down. We're going to use the technology that's available. That was very much a very trailblazing type approach. In your case, Gary, your humor, and I don't know if people recognize you or remember, you were a finalist on America's Got Talent. Your style is different. And I urge people to find your material because I find it tremendous. It's clean. It gets to the point for me. It hits on ideas that that we know and we can all laugh about with minimal people being offended. I don't want to say nobody because let's be honest, you're in comedy. So that's not possible. Somebody's always offended.
Absolutely.
Do you feel you were trailblazing? Because even though there are a lot of comics out, what you were doing was different.
I would say I always felt more of like trailblazing because in everyday life you're not meeting somebody who's pursuing comedy, not necessarily like the style that I was doing was different. More so just the fact that, you know, as far as, you know, a career goes, it's not the typical thing that people actually go after and do. You know, it's something where, you know, in school I've always felt funny, and there are other kids who are funny too, but I was always like, that's what I wanted to do. And other people chose to go, you know, different paths. But as far as trailblazing, just kind of in my own way of like my own path, I felt maybe so, but not necessarily in an actual style.
Very good. All right. I think we're about ready for, if I'm right, the second video of 3 from Byrne. And then we're going to be coming back afterwards. And if I'm right, we're going to do another book drawing. Elliot, you can't have 2 of them. I'm sorry, but watch, your twin brother will get the second one. Then the thing, we know it. Okay, ready for a little bit more music.
I've been losing sleep. My mom says I'm broke. I got no songs on the radio. I found love, she let me go. It's been a crazy week. The world's placed on hold. I got no views on my videos. I wish I could let it go. Waiting for a minute just to get out of this woo. No place where there's no problems. It's a no man's land where the rebels dance, make friends and try to fall in love. Oh, I'll be living on the run. Just a no man's land. I ain't got no plan. Might tie a rope around the sun. Oh, I'll just see what I become. I got moving feet. I make it up as I go. I bring the highs and forget the lows. I got a lot of those. Don't bother me, cause I'm breaking my phone. You live your life through a video. My views are better though. Waiting for a minute just to get out of this woo. No place where there's no problems. It's a no man's land where the rebels dance, make friends and try to fall in love. Oh, I'll be living on the run. Just a no man's land. I ain't got no plan. Might tie a rope around the sun. Oh, I'll just see what I become. Oh, oh. Make friends and try to fall in love. Oh, I'll be living on the run. Just a no man's land. I ain't got no plan. Might tie a rope around the sun. Oh, I'll just see what I become. Oh, oh.
All right. We're back for the next book drawing. And also, if you guys have any questions in the chat box, feel free to throw them in there, and Mason will try and get to them as well. Exciting. Bankrupt. All right. You got, ooh, that was a close one. Sorry, Felix. Paula LaBoy. You did it. Congratulations, Paula. You
Congratulations.
are the winner of
And if you're
the
nice,
Chutzpah Advantage.
let's read the book too.
I guess I have to turn the camera on for a second then.
Hey, I'm glad. Thank you guys for tuning in. All right. Let me thank a couple more people, then we're going to go on with some other areas from the book. This is an endorsement from Josh Linkner, who I mentioned earlier, very successful business guy. I have not met Josh, but he has been so kind to take my calls, read what I've written, and then write an endorsement. And I haven't even met him. He wrote, by the way, he is a multi-New York Times bestselling author, and he has a book coming out this week as well, which I guarantee is going to be another New York Times bestseller. Okay, The Chutzpah Advantage is a groundbreaking work that delivers a compelling message on courage, boldness, and success. Mason Harris shares inspiring practical insights in this energizing book. It's a must-read for anyone looking to boost their performance and reach a new level of achievement. Thank you, Josh. Somebody else I'd like to share with you, Mo Fathelbaum, who I met, God, it has to be 20 years ago in the Entrepreneurs Organization. He was a facilitator and trainer for the meetings that the small groups would have. He wrote, having worked with successful people the world over, from entry-level managers to founders and CEOs, from Fortune 500 companies to nonprofits, I know there's something unique, something different about people who consciously choose to make a difference. The Chutzpah Advantage helps identify those behaviors that are a fundamental part of these successful people and organizations. Risk-taking, trailblazing, purpose, humility, and much more. It's all shared in this valuable and enjoyable work. Thank you, Mo. I think you're tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I'll do another one right now. Jan Glow-Janke just wrote a book called Splashes of Spirit, A Guide to Joy, that I recommend. She wrote, have you ever wanted an advisor to accelerate your personal and business success? Have you ever wanted a book of directions to guide you to your potential? Well, Mason Harris is that advisor, and the Chutzpah Advantage is that guidebook. It's like a wonderful fireside chat with a wise, witty friend. And then I'll tell you what, we've got time. I'm going to do another one right now from Nick Kindler, who's from Canada, part of my international group of friends and people I've met in the effort of writing this book. He wrote a great guide to giving you the often required kick in the butt to drive your business and life forward. I wish I had read the Chutzpah Advantage years ago. Thank you, guys. We'll have some more acknowledgements for people who have truly helped me through this effort. And what are we up to now, Gary? What's next?
So next is talking a little bit more about Chutzpah, shockingly enough, and
I didn't know
we could do the interview. You wanted to do a little bit of the Sports Illustrated.
Yes, there are
Shenanigans.
Aside from the 8 behaviors or characteristics of chutzpah, there are 6 types that I've identified. And they include things like, let's see, we have win-win chutzpah, which is all of us doing what we want to do. We want to create value, earn a living from it. So I do something that generates a return for me and you as well. We also have other serving chutzpah, which is where we get into the categories of people or organizations, nonprofits, whose mission it is to help others. I speak about a couple in the book, 2 organizations of which I really feel close to. One is Keen, which is Kids Enjoy Exercise Now, and they provide services to young adults with various disabilities to enable them to participate in sports and other activities. I have an interview with the founder of that book that I describe in the book. And the second is called Save a Child's Heart, which is an organization that provides free medical care to children from countries that cannot provide cardiac care to their own citizens. And this care is provided actually in the suburb of Tel Aviv, Israel. I had the opportunity to visit there years ago. And there's a great story about chutzpah in that book as well. There's a category I call chutzpah on steroids. That's the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos, the Steve Jobs of the world, and actually a lot of people we all know. Oy vey chutzpah is the part that Gary's going to speak about in just a minute. I have self-serving chutzpah, which is the true negative side of chutzpah, because chutzpah is a skill set. We can use a skill set for good or for bad. We can become a computer programmer and create an algorithm that helps in medical care, that makes companies and people more efficient. Or we can decide to create ransomware, to take other people's computers and hard drives hostage until we are paid a sum of money. It's the same skill set, it's how we put it to use. And then the last one I call political chutzpah, which I'm definitely not getting into in this call. It's a book in itself. But actually the oy vey chutzpah I describe as something you hear about that you go, I can't believe they pulled that off. That took the gonads, Gary, that you referred to earlier. And by the way, chutzpah is not limited by age. One of the questions that came in, Janice, thank you, is related to chutzpah. Is it innate or is it learned? And basically, it is mostly learned, in my opinion, although certainly you can grow up in an environment where you are enveloped in chutzpah. And Gary, this is going to give us a chance. You had an article that appeared recently in Sports Illustrated. I'm trying to remember, it wasn't about your athletic capabilities, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, right. That stopped at Little League.
Yeah, you did play some hockey, but you were a fanatic sports fan as a youngster, 10 years old, right? And
Yep.
getting to a game at Madison Square Garden to see the Knicks or the Rangers or to see the Islanders out on the island, that was heaven for you, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, back in the '90s, especially like the Knicks and the Rangers. So seeing them in the those teams were incredible, and the Rangers they had great teams. They won the Stanley Cup, and then the Knicks they went to the NBA Finals. So I was a big fan.
So what was it that, how would you describe the oil that chutzpah? I don't want to tell your story, but in essence,
Sure.
you were a 10-year-old kid. And to get into those games was not easy. And to get seats that weren't in the nosebleed section was even harder. How did you happen to enjoy so many games from the floor or the press box and actually even in the locker rooms after the games? What do you tell us?
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you guys the spiel, but yeah, back in between like the years of like 1993 to 1997, I was I started at like 10 years old till up until I was about 14. My dad and we would go to games at Madison Square Garden or Nassau Coliseum to see the Knicks, Rangers, or Islanders. And we'd go there, but we'd go there at posing, lying, and saying that we worked for Sports Illustrated for Kids. So I was the kids reporter and he was the photographer. And we went there, he would call up ahead and he'd tell them that Sports Illustrated for Kids was coming, the photographer and the reporter. And we'd show up, we'd have press passes. We didn't even buy tickets to any of the games or anything like that. We'd just go in there and they were expecting us and kind of just opened up the doors, for us. And I'd be sitting on the floor for some games. I'd be sitting, third row. I went to incredible games that were, with incredible meetings, different types of celebrities, Bill Murray, Cindy Crawford. I met Richard Gere. But that was just, in the stands. And then at the actual games, like, for example, I went to Michael Jordan. He scored 55 points. It was his first game back in 1995. And we went to that game and I sat third row. My dad, he sat on the floor. We wouldn't usually sit together because he was taking pictures on the floor, pretending to be a photographer. And then after the game, we went into the locker room and I interviewed Michael Jordan. And even though I wasn't actually a kids reporter, and that wasn't the only game we did it. I went to the Rangers Stanley Cup games, game 1, game 5, and game 7. And after the game, I was in the locker room with the Rangers as they won the Stanley Cup, and they were celebrating and they were drinking from the Stanley Cup. And after that, I even went to the after party that they had as an 11-year-old, and I was up to like 5, 6 in the morning, and everyone believed that I was a Sports Illustrated for Kids. Probably did it at over 35, 40 games at the Garden. Some more memorable than the others, but yeah, those were a couple instances where we did it. And then even after all that, my dad was always one to push the envelope. We went to Gracie Mansion, yeah, and where the mayor lives, and it was Giuliani at the time. We would get in past security, no problem. My dad, again, he always knew how to pull strings to get us into different places. Always knew the right thing to say to people, and I always was told to what to do in certain situations, and I knew how to play along. So as a kid, I kind of went along with it. I mean, it was pretty cool. So I was all for it, and that's kind of how we went to different sporting events throughout my childhood.
Well, clearly that was chutzpah. You as a 10-year-old, that's a pretty early age to show it. You were coached and made it happen. And I guess the world first learned of this after the Michael Jordan documentary last year, when you called Sports Illustrated, if I'm right, and basically told them the story. I guess you figured that the statute of limitations was long past. They couldn't come after you. And they responded by writing a story about you and putting in the picture with you and Michael Jordan, if I remember.
Well, actually, so I'll back it up to clarify certain things. But so I made an Instagram post, and then it got like a whole bunch of likes and stuff, and a bunch of people shared it. And then somebody from Sports Illustrated reached out to me to find out if the story was factual. And then from there, I wrote the article that was in Sports Illustrated for Kids, Sports Illustrated. So after 25 years or whatever, I actually did I made up for lost work.
Well, your story is in the section on Oive Chutzpah. So hopefully the readers can learn this, and hopefully I got most of the story right.
Yeah, and also if anybody wants to check out the story, if you Google my name and just hit news in Google, it's one of the first things that pop up is like the article that I wrote for Sports Illustrated.
Okay. I want to go through some of the questions that we have. Let's see. Oh, a lot of people congratulating. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, I hope you do teach your grandchildren chutzpah. That's thinking ahead out there. Thank you, Bob. There is one question, I believe, earlier. When we spoke about the skill set and how you can use it for good or bad. The question about, is it genetic or is it learned? And Gary, I think we can say that you learned your chutzpah from a chutzpah expert, as you described your father.
Yeah.
What are the questions that are on here that I'm trying to see make sense? I'll tell you what, if you can look at some of the questions for me, there are a few more people I want to acknowledge. One is a gentleman by the name of Joe Applebaum. He's a CEO and founder of Ajax Union. He wrote, Mason has tremendous amount of knowledge in the world of chutzpah. If you're looking to be more successful in business, you need to have chutzpah. Definitely read this book if you're interested in learning how to be bolder and take your business and your life to the next level. And also Rob Prins, who's not from the traditional business world, but is very much from the business world of entertainment. He was Celine Dion's manager for a while, agent. He's Jerry Seinfeld's agent. He's worked with a number of very big names. He wrote stories from the worlds of business, sports, and everyday life, drive home the behaviors that encompass the Chutzpah Advantage. The book is an original approach to helping people and companies achieve greater success. Let's see. Oh, I'll give you another one, and then I'm going to ask the person who wrote the foreword of the book if he's on to say something. But a gentleman by the name of Chuck Husak, who is in advertising, and I have to say, one of the funniest people I have met. He wrote a number of endorsements for me. I think he was having fun one night. So, for example, he wrote that this book will pay for itself if you sell it to one of your friends. Okay, that's a good start. Thank you. That wasn't what I was looking for. He also wrote, this one I love, you don't have to be a genius to acquire chutzpah. My friend, Mason Harris, is Exhibit A. So I don't know, something about that resonates with me. And then buying this book will likely make you a happier person. And that goes for Mason as well. But let me go on to the gentleman, somebody who I also have not met. It's been all internet and LinkedIn this year. A gentleman by the name of Todd Churches. He's the CEO of Big Blue Gumball. He's the author of Visual Leadership, Leveraging the Power of Virtual Thinking and Leadership in Life. He's also a professor at, if I'm right, Columbia and NYU. Todd, are you on by any chance?
I am, Mason. Congratulations on your launch. I'm right here.
Thank you very much. I was going to ask you to talk about, you describe yourself as somebody without chutzpah, somebody with the 3 Bs, and then you have a wonderful story about when you were a 24-year-old. And when we spoke about it, I said, this is chutzpah. Can you share it with everybody?
Sure. Growing up, the person who exemplified chutzpah in our life was my Uncle Chach, my mother's uncle. He was one of these flashy guys with gold chains and called everyone Bubala. Like, that was Uncle Chach. And he was always in one business. He'd go bankrupt and he'd start another business, but they always had the latest cars. And it's like he was Mr. Chutzpah. So I said I was in awe of him. I admired him, was scared of him, because I'm an extreme, I said, as you said, 3 Bs kind of guy. Traditionally a back of the room, behind the scenes bookworm. So as an introvert, that was like the farthest thing from my personality. So I both was appalled by it and yet in awe of it, right? So I always thought I'm never gonna be like that. But then the flip side of chutzpah, as you point out in your book, the positive side is assertiveness, confidence, courage, willingness to take risks and try and to fail and to learn and bounce back, resilience. So there's a lot of different ways of looking at it. So the story I told in the foreword was I was 24 years old. I grew up in New York City, in Queens on Long Island. Decided to move out to LA to pursue my dream of working in Hollywood as either a producer or a writer or something. I had no idea what. I always wanted to work in television. So I packed my bags. My parents dropped me off at JFK. I get on the plane. My dream was to work for NBC because I interned at NBC at 30 Rock the summer before. So anyway, I get on the plane. I'm walking up the aisle to get to my seat in the back of the plane. And this guy with gray hair, silver hair, is blocking the aisle, and it's Grant Tinker. And he was the president of NBC. So here I am moving out to LA with not knowing anyone except for a college roommate. And I'm on the plane with who he actually used to be married to Mary Tyler Moore, actually before that. So the whole flight, this is like a 6-hour flight. The first 5 hours, I was like, should I go talk to him? Should I not? Because as an introvert, that was the farthest thing that was so out of my comfort zone. So I kept going up to the curtain and turning around and going back. And then just as we were passing over Vegas, I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm going to kick myself for the rest of my life. So I walked up to the first class and I said, excuse me, Mr. Tinker. And I just started rambling about how I was moving out to LA to pursue my dream of working in television. And I thought he was going to just like say, get away from me. But he actually got up from his aisle seat, moved over to the window seat and said, sit down. What's your name? And he spent the next 15 minutes, he got me a Diet Coke and he gave me his card and said, call my secretary and see if she could set up some meetings for you. So I never heard from him again or talked to him, but I did get a few meetings. But that's like one example of where I really pushed myself out of my comfort zone. And, so I had a little bit of Uncle Chach in me in that moment.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it's interesting. Todd, you and I are both from Queens, but I listened to you and I think your accent is more Alabama. I'm not quite sure, but
Maybe my 10 years in LA, I lost my accent. I don't know.
all right. Thank you, Todd. And thank you so much also for writing the foreword.
It was my pleasure.
Okay, let's get back and let's see. We have some more questions, I think. Gary, do you have any? Did you?
Yeah, well, and this is kind of Janice asked this, but she was asking if chutzpah is innate. So if you can be born with it, I wonder, I think that if I was to say, I think it is, just from my personal experience, I think that it is, yeah, it could be, definitely part of somebody, but you still need that teaching. You kind of need somebody to lead by example to realize that it's possible.
And I agree. We're all born at some level with a bit of our personality wired. There's no doubt about that. But it's our exposure to others, our teachers, the culture we grow up in, our environment that also influences where we go. There's no doubt about that side as well. So the innate side, are some people more confident because they're born that way, as an example, or are they more confident because they tried and they succeeded at more things? And even if they failed at some things, were they able to pick themselves back up and continue trying? I see chutzpah as mostly behaviors and characteristics that we can all learn. And actually that many of us exhibit some of the model completely. By the way, I mentioned that model, the 8 letters of chutzpah. We spoke about carpe diem. The H stands for handling objections. The idea that every good idea and every bad idea is accompanied by objections. People who say, oh, why are you spending your time doing that? Don't do that. There are people who encourage us, and unfortunately people who discourage us, because they're coming from their bias. They're showing their reluctance to move forward. So people with chutzpah have to learn how to handle these objections. The U stands for uncovering need, pain, and opportunity. If you've ever been in sales, and frankly, everybody I know is in sales, even if they're not in salespeople, because we all persuade others on a regular basis. That doesn't change. Uncovering need, pain, and opportunity is what enables us, if we listen carefully and we ask the right questions, it enables us to move the discussion forward and reach results we're trying to reach. I mentioned the T, which is trailblazing. Z stands for zigzag. This is when you really hit a block, when banker after banker says they're not going to finance your idea in business, and you find a manufacturer who decides to invest in you by giving you better terms. You find a way around it. I use an example in the book of an author. Well, there are even worse examples of this, but an author whose book was turned down by 13 publishers. The next publisher looked at it and said, I don't think we really do books like this, but I'll give it to my daughter. The daughter read what she had, told her father, this is the best thing I've ever read. When can I read the next book, the next chapters? Well, that author was J.K. Rowling. And that book, which had been turned down by others. The Beatles, by the way, were turned down by numerous record companies before somebody took a chance on them. If you give up too early, you run the risk that what you're offering the world is not going to make it there. So that's the C. C-H-U-T-Z was zigzag. P has to do with purpose. And this gets into a book called Man's Search for Meaning, a gentleman by the name of Viktor Frankl. I suggest people look it up. There is a story in the book about a family from a small town in Czechoslovakia called Serednia. And this is what happened to them and how they survived, in essence, how they survived the worst of mankind. That's the P. The A is related to ambiguity elimination. Too often we allow decisions to stop us from moving forward. And then the H is in regard to humility, which is the biggest surprise to people who say, I never saw humility as part of chutzpah. But we look at some of the research, say from Jim Collins and those leaders who took their companies from good to great. Humility is always mentioned as one of the characteristics that was critical to their success. Where are we now? I'm not even sure.
We're basically the book drawing for the next one. And then there's just one other question too from Robin Gorman Newman. She wanted to know the difference between chutzpah and ballsy.
Ballsy to me reflects a willingness to stretch your limits, to push beyond what is sometimes socially acceptable or what a lot of people might be socially acceptable. And without a doubt, that's part of trailblazing. So I didn't have a B in chutzpah where I could use ballsy. So for me, trailblazing reflects that ability, that willingness to put yourself at risk, to be ridiculed when you fail, because people love to jump on the person who fails. and move forward. That takes guts. That takes intestinal fortitude in some ways. I've heard people describe it as. Another good question. Thank you.
Cool. And then, yeah, we're all set for the final book drawing. Oh, man. Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, can I ask, Devin, can you do another one? I refuse to give this guy a free book. Eric Harris is my son. He's getting a
Yeah.
free book. But can we do another one? So, Eric, sorry to do that to you.
All right. Michael Wolf.
Mike Wolf, good one.
No relation as we know it right now. So that's good.
No,
That
no
one that
relation.
one's okay. That one's
Okay.
okay.
Hi, Mason.
Hey, I'm glad you're on, Mike. We'll get you the book too. Let's see. There is actually closing thing. I do want to thank my publisher, Indie Books International. The team there has been absolutely fantastic. They did a good deal. Frankly, most of the editing I did some crowdsource editing that I should say as well. They've gotten me to this point. The book is up. I'm so appreciative. They found the cover design, by the way. And I think, Gary, you had the book on your screen. You have it. But that cover, I keep getting people asking me, is this person stepping out, committing suicide or stepping onto the letters? And it took a lot of work, but Chutzpah is a bridge. It's a bridge from where you are to where you can be. But sometimes you have to take a risk and take that step. As far as the red umbrella the guy is holding, yes, we're risk takers. We're willing to make decisions other people would be reluctant to make. But if they're calling for rain, we're going to bring an umbrella too, because we're not stupid. Okay, so that's how you get the umbrella in there. The book design, Steve Plummer, by the way, who is affiliated with Indie Books International. I just enjoyed working with him and I thank him. I believe he might be on, I don't know. We have, I believe, one final video. It happens to be my favorite Byrne video. So if you like the two previous ones, this is the one that I thought was the best. Thank you all for taking the time. Thank you for spending the time here. Gary, I appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you.
Look forward to
I'm
seeing.
happy to be a part of it. Congratulations. This is amazing. So
Thank you.
very proud of you and you should be very happy. This is incredible.
Thank you. I am happy. I'm happy I have broadband actually, because that worried me this morning. And thanks to all who turned out. Please, if you have any questions, you can reach me via email, mason@thechutzpahguy.com. And I look forward to speaking with many of you. If you have a book club, reach out to me. Maybe I can make an appearance in your book club. That would be fun as well. Time for the video. Thank you all again.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like some technical problems. Gary, I see you're still on. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I could hear you. No, I was
Okay.
gonna freeze myself, fake, just do a fake one like this. Freak you out.
All right.
All right. No, I mean, I guess they can't get it right going, but hey, it's okay.
Well,
It's on
let's-
YouTube, right?
Yeah, Devin, can we get this last one going? Maybe not. Suzanne? If not, go find Byrne on YouTube.
Oh, we got it. We just gotta set it back. I might have to
Well,
start singing.
Byrne can move. but
Oh yeah, Byrne can move.
but it's the music and the good melody, the lyrics, his action that really I enjoyed on this. Figure.
Is it not?
Watch as I drift away. I'm a man on the moon. I wish that I could keep feeling the way that I do. I'm a man on the moon. I don't wanna spend my whole life doing the things I don't like, just passing the time. I've been mixing gin with my pride, but it's been blurring my lines. I'm broken inside. But tonight I gotta feel it. I can't explain it, but it's moving through my blood and my veins. Don't it feel like times are changing? Don't second guess and close my eyes and watch as I drift away. I'm a man on the moon. I wish that I could keep feeling the way that I do. I'm a man on the moon. I'm living in a dream outside my cynical view. I'm a man on the moon. I'm a man on the moon. I'm stressed about my job and the money. I'm a comparison junkie and I like to get high. Can't you see the smile that I'm faking? I got a good reputation, it's a damn good disguise. But tonight I gotta feel it. I can't explain it, but it's moving through my blood and my veins. Don't it feel like times are changing? Don't second guess and close my eyes and watch as I drift away. I'm a man on the moon. I wish that I could keep feeling the way that I do. I'm a man on the moon. I'm living in a dream outside my cynical view. I'm a man on the moon.